Good morning, Roomers and Zoomers. Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Steve Morihiro, and it is my privilege to be your worship associate today on the 4th of July. Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, is off today, but her spirit is with us in some of the recordings you'll hear in the service. In her absence, we already heard beautiful prelude music from Amelia Russo-Newstad and Aaron Newstad. Other music this morning will be led by Amy Tompkins and Phil Chipman. Religious education classes for our youth and children are being held at Estancia Park this summer. Our minister, the Reverend Sean Wilshire, is not in the pulpit today, but she has a special message for you.
Hello, Roomers and Zoomers. So I'm away this week, but my spirit is with you. For those of you who are new to the church, maybe you're just checking us out or curious about Unitarian Universalism, welcome. Glad you're here. You are in for a treat. This is a wonderful, friendly, fabulous, just all-around spectacular community. I hope you can get to know them, because it can be kind of tough to get to know a new community. But here's the thing, just hang in there, join in one of the activities, and before long, you'll get to know people, and then this becomes your church. Well, today we've planned a wonderful service for you, just blending music and word to bring together a helpful and hope-filled message. We hope it will feed your soul. So without further ado, let's go.
Let's go. This morning, we are delighted to have somebody joining us who is already well known to many of us at OCUUC, the Reverend Rica Kaufel. Reverend Rica was born and raised in Germany, graduated from Meadville Lombard Theological School, and completed her internship right here at Orange Coast UU Church last June, and was ordained by our congregation in January of 2021, just about 5 months ago. She is the part-time minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church at Anaheim, and also works as a lecturer for academic English at UCI. Frequently, she volunteers with California Conference for Equality and Justices, that's CCEJ's, Building Bridges Camp, taking teenagers from all over Southern California to the mountains for the weekend to teach them about systems of oppression and how to dismantle them. Her favorite thing in the world is spending time with her daughter, Elise. We would like to recognize the many other volunteers who have helped to put this service together. Today, you can see their names on the screen. It's a big list of names. Let us respectfully recognize that our church property rests on a Hashiman and Tongva land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. Roomers, we invite you at this point in time to silence your cell phones. Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. Another warning for Roomers. I'd like to remind the Roomers not to sing or hum along with our music leader, even though you see the lyrics on the screen. Zoomers, you can sing to your heart's content. Roomers, you can sway to your heart's content. We will let you know in the future when we can all sing together again during service. If any of our roomers would like to share a joy or sorrow, please fill out the slip that we handed to you and place it in one of the baskets sometime between now and the offertory. During the offertory musical selection that Amy and Phil will be performing, the ushers will be picking up the joys and sorrows slips from the baskets. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you find it here. After the service, we will provide you with an opportunity to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. After the service, we will be placing the Zoomers who remain into Zoom breakout rooms for 20 minutes of coffee and conversation. Everyone is welcome to participate, and it's a great way to get to know people in the congregation. Let our service begin with the lighting of our chalice as we say our unison affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. This we affirm together.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, except you guys. You can sing on Zoom. But if you'd like to sway or clap along with this one, it's a familiar song that I hope you'll all enjoy this morning. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest, the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. I roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. When the sun was shining and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving and the dust clouds rolling, the voice was chanting as the fog was lifting. This land was made for you and me. Was a big high wall there that tried to stop me. Against was painted, said private property, but on the other side it didn't say nothing. That side was made for you and me. In the shadow of the steeple I saw my people. By the relief office I saw my people. As they stood there hungry, I stood there asking, is this land made for you and me? Nobody living can ever stop me as I go walking that freedom highway. Nobody living can ever make me turn back. This land was made for you and me.
Good morning, wonderful people of the Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. Most of you know me already, and as you can tell, I am so happy to be back with you this morning. Seeing you brings so much joy to my heart. And I'm also tasked with delivering love from Elise, my daughter, who many of you also know. She's celebrating the 4th of July with her dad today. In the lead up to today, she asked me what the 4th of July was all about. We talked a little bit about the history and also about celebrating one's country, being proud of one's country. This made her think. She told me that there are some things she loves about the United States, about living here. But she said there are also many things that definitely do not make her proud. Where does that leave her on the 4th of July? Should she still celebrate? But love, for a person or for a country, true meaningful love does not blindly uplift us. True meaningful love is honest, even when the truth is hard to hold or even unacceptable. And true meaningful love then helps us to right the wrongs and to become better. So today, in the spirit of true and meaningful love for this country and love for each other, let's honor each other's truths. Let's uplift each other, knowing that a just and faithful tomorrow begins here, today, in our hearts, our shared convictions and dedication to justice and love, and through the shared work of our hands to make these manifest in our community, in this country, and in the world. So, welcome to all of you, and let us worship together.
Zoomers, please join us. Roomers, please sway. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, all my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, all my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, all my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, all my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, all my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, all my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, all my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, all my soul.
169 years ago, in one of the most amazing pieces of rhetoric in the US, at least in my opinion, Frederick Douglass addressed a group of abolitionists to talk about another of the most amazing pieces of American writing, the Declaration of Independence. In this video that we are about to see, his descendants deliver excerpts of this speech, and is powerful to behold. And despite the gravity of the speech and its powerful impact, both the speech and the video end with a note of hope and an uplifting of Black joy, which will then be picked up in a song by the Revival Resistance Choir following the video.
Do I look there or look there? Okay. Okay. My name is Alexa Ann Watson, and I am the great great-great-great-granddaughter of Frederick
Frederick
Douglass.
Douglass is my
I am the
great-great-great-great.
great-great-great-granddaughter of Frederick Douglass.
I am the great-great-great-great-grandchild.
I've been counting on my fingers since I was like 5.
Whenever you're ready, here we go.
This is the 4th of July. It is the birthday of your national independence and of your political freedom.
Fellow citizens, I shall not presume to dwell at length on the associations that cluster about this day. The simple story of it is that 76 years ago, the people of this country were British subjects.
Oppression makes a wise man mad. Your fathers were wise men, and if they did not go mad, they became restive under this treatment.
With brave men, there's always a remedy for oppression.
They succeeded, and today you reap the fruits of their success. The freedom gained is yours, and you, therefore, may properly celebrate this anniversary.
Fellow citizens, pardon me. Allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence?
Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us?
I am not included within the pale of this glorious anniversary.
Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common.
The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me.
The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me.
This 4th of July is yours, not mine.
You may rejoice, I must mourn.
Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions.
At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument is needed.
Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke.
For it is not light that is needed, but fire.
It is not the gentle shower, but thunder.
We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake.
The feeling of the nation must be quickened.
The conscience of the nation must be roused.
The propriety of the nation must be startled.
The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed.
And its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced.
What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim.
To him, your celebration is a sham.
Your boasted liberty an unholy license.
Your national greatness, swelling vanity.
Your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless.
Your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence.
Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery.
Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings,
With all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him
Mere bombast.
Fraud.
deception,
Impiety.
and hypocrisy. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. Allow me to say in conclusion, notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country.
This speech was written almost 170 years ago, but this part of it is still extremely relevant, especially with today's protests.
I think that when people are oppressed, they feel silenced, and if someone feels silenced, they get angry. There are certain tactics that you need to use to get people to really hear your voice, and it's not always going to be just like a very calm discussion.
I think he's mostly talking to the people who are already on his side, but believe that they can still try to talk this out, or that things are still justifiable. I know a lot of people at the time were saying And people now are still saying that it's not as bad as it could be.
While the 4th of July probably does not feel the same to me as it does to others, I wouldn't say that it has no meaning, because it is the time when America as a country became free from another country. But I would say that it's not the time in which I gained my freedom.
He had a lot of hope, especially for his age. And like, I'm getting to the point in my life where I'm only 20 years old, but I'm exhausted. Like, I have these thoughts like, will we ever really get to this point? Or is this really something that we should actually spend our time fighting for?
Somebody once said that pessimism is a tool of white oppression, and I think that's true. I think in many ways we are still slaves to the notion that it will never get better. But I think that there is hope, and I think it's important that we celebrate Black joy and Black life, and we remember that change is possible, change is probable, and that there's hope.
This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this strength that I have, this strength that I have, this strength that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. World didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh yeah, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. Oh, this love that I have. This love that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This love that I have. Oh yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this love that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Singing, the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this pride that I have, this pride that I have, this pride that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have. I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this pride that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this peace that I have, oh, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give me my peace that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. Won't you sing about peace? This peace that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this joy that I have, this joy that I have, this joy that I have. Oh yeah, now the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have. I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Resistance Revival Chorus believes in the words written by the poet Toy Derricott when she wrote, "Joy is an act of resistance." We believe in the words of Mr. Harry Belafonte, who said, "When the movement is strong, the music is strong." We sing to revive the hearts of those who fight for social justice, and we sing together for freedom.
I always thought that I was the first person in my family to visit the United States, let alone live here. My parents hadn't been here before I moved here, and neither had my grandparents, or so I thought. I mentioned this once to Tante Gerdi, Aunt Gerdi, my grandmother's younger sister, and she said, "Oh no, but that's not true. Uncle Kurt spent 11 months in Nebraska." Uncle Kurt was her husband, and he had been my grandfather's best friend since they were young. He collected minerals, which he even let me play with very carefully when I was growing up, and he always had blackberry gumdrops for me in his shirt pocket whenever we came to visit. I wanted to bring a picture for you, but almost every picture I have of him is him sitting next to my grandfather on the couch after I adorned them with silly hats and scarves. And I didn't know if they would be comfortable with that. Uncle Kurt also lived in East Germany until the wall fell. So however he made it to the US for 11 months, to Nebraska of all places, was a mystery to me. Tante Gerdi quickly cleared this up for me. Though highly critical of Hitler's regime, Uncle Kurt was drafted as soon as World War II started and stationed in Italy. There he was captured by American soldiers and brought to the US as a prisoner of war. He was sent to labor on a farm in Nebraska. Now, by the time I found out about this, he had already died, so I never got to hear his recollection of that time. But according to Tante Gerdi, he actually remembered this time very fondly. Yes, the work on the farm was hard, but the meals were hearty and plentiful. The beds in the barrack where he and other German prisoners slept were warm and comfortable, and the farmer's family on whose farm they worked was friendly and welcoming. They had evenings and Sundays off, and during his free time, Uncle Kurt took a drawing class where he created images and pictures of exotic animals and birds, including a blue parrot, which I actually got to see. This was in stark contrast to other relatives who were prisoners of war. Uncle Max, for example, was sent to France, where the German soldiers were not even given houses, having to live in cold, wet trenches until they built some raggedy huts themselves. Now, don't get me wrong. I know what Germany did in the war. I completely understand that the French were not at all inclined to make the lives of prisoners of war comfortable in any way. I understand that. But for that reason, I was even more surprised how well my Uncle Kurt was treated. In fact, his wife, Tante Gerdi, mother of an infant in East Berlin, tried her hardest in the hard years after the war to save enough of their daily living to send care packages with chocolate and some tobacco to her husband, until he wrote back to her that this was really not necessary at all. Not only did they have chocolate and tobacco on the farm, the quality was also much better. I was surprised, and I was deeply grateful. because I loved my Uncle Kurt very much. And because he was never a supporter of Hitler and his regime, but instead found himself drafted into a war that he had never wanted. In fact, Uncle Kurt's story made me love this land even more, made me even happier to be here. Interestingly, though, the few people here to whom I told this story were just as confused as me. They had never heard about German prisoners of war in the US. It made me wonder if my uncle's story was an isolated case, a rare occurrence. But that notion was actually far from the truth. Years later, while listening to one of my favorite podcasts, Radiolab, Jad Abumrad and Robert Krulwich, the hosts of the show, shone some light on this story for me in an episode entitled Nazi Summer Camp. I know, right? Apparently, towards the end of World War II, there were almost 500,000 prisoners of war in the US, mostly German, but also some Japanese and some Italian soldiers. They were located in every single state except for Vermont, sometimes housed in tent cities or churches or high school gyms and even on rodeo grounds until more suitable accommodations could be built. There were over 200 base camps, some of them housing up to 8,000 prisoners. And life in these camps was not bad. People had plenty of food. In fact, they were given so much food that in some cases they couldn't even finish it all. Though hard work was required, the prisoners were treated well. Some even made friends with the farmers they were working for. Some people fell in love. And during these times during the times off, there was even entertainment. Prisoners were given musical instruments. They formed orchestras. There were pottery classes, or in the case of Uncle Kurt, drawing classes. Of course, not everybody in the US was happy with that. There were people in the population and the media who were quite enraged from the very start about the cushy life that enemy soldiers who were killing the sons of American families in the war abroad were provided with. After all, the war took a toll on America as well. But despite growing criticism, the US government held on to their treatment of enemy prisoners of war. The Geneva Conventions had just been signed a little over 10 years before, stating that prisoners of war should be given the same rations and treatments as the soldiers of one's own military. The US abided by these conventions, even went beyond them, determined that there should not be a repeat of the gruesomeness of World War I. But of course, we all know that World War I's gruesomeness was to be overshadowed. We know that Germany did not abide by any laws and conventions. This became clear when US soldiers discovered German prisoner of war camps for American soldiers who were treated cruelly, violently, who were even killed, massacred after their surrender. That Germany did not follow any laws or conventions became even more clear when the concentration camps were discovered. At this point, resources in the US were becoming scarce as well. Also, in the camps hosting German soldiers, the relative freedom allowed the convinced Nazi prisoners, those who were not simply drafted, but who followed Hitler willingly and enthusiastically, to organize themselves, perpetuate their ideologies, and bully prisoners like my Uncle Kurt, who did not share their convictions. All of this led to a renewed debate about how many of the scarce resources should be spent on such deplorable people. Should you be fair and humane to those who showed such a disregard for humanity? When push came to shove, there was a vote in Congress. And Congress voted to keep unholding the Geneva Conventions, to keep treating the German prisoners decently. Not only did they say that they didn't want to sink to the same level as Nazis, they did not even want to use Nazis as a standard or a measurement. They decided to stick to their own standards, their own American ideals. And because of that, my Uncle Kurt did not have to suffer. And after some time, he returned safely home. Now, when my daughter asks me, what parts of America do you love? This is one of the stories that comes to my mind. It really is. I do think this was a choice well made, and I don't think it was easy. Upholding one's ideals often is not. Choosing to hold on to one's goodness when faced with such evil is not. But I think it was right, and it fills me with gratitude. But, of course, we also know that during that time, not only good choices were made. Because those prisoner of war camps for German soldiers were not the only camps that existed in the US at that time. There were also the internment camps, where over 100,000 people of Japanese ancestry, the majority of them American citizens, were housed after they were yanked out of their lives, simply because their background made them seem like a threat. And the conditions in these camps, sparsely erected wooden buildings that did not keep out the cold, the wind, sometimes even the rain, where up to 25 people were crammed into rooms designed for 4, where there was no plumbing, were bad. Food was scarce and of low quality. Lives were destroyed, families ripped apart, and harm was done. The ruptures in families and the psychological damage that was done carried forth into the next generations as well. And the harm that was done in these camps was done to civilians, mothers and fathers and their children, grandmothers and grandfathers, people like you and me, people who did not fire at American sons on the battlefield abroad, people who did not commit genocide. And of course, all of this also happened decades before the Civil Rights Movement, when segregation was still rampant in many parts of the US, including the American military. I'm so grateful that my Uncle Kurt was treated so kindly. And also, the US treated Nazi soldiers better than many of her own citizens. Both of this is true. And I think it is undeniable that racism played a part in this. I think what this shows is something that also became apparent again in recent years, that in many parts of America, a white life counts more than the life of a person of color, even if the white life is a Nazi soldier or sympathizer. When racism leads to a nation favoring Nazis over their own citizens, then we have failed to uphold the values and promises the Declaration of Independence espouses. Holding the truth, even a hard truth, is also an act of love. Now, in the podcast that I mentioned, the hosts also bring up racism. But in addition, they quote Paul Springer, a military historian who raises another reason, not one to replace racism as an explanation for this grave and unjust discrepancy in treatment, but to add to it. He says that one of the main differences was that there were clear rules governing international law like the Geneva Conventions when it came to the treatment of war prisoners. The same was not true for American citizens. In fact, even Japanese soldiers who became prisoners of war were treated far better than the American civilians of Japanese ancestry in the internment camps. Because for them, there were no clear rules. They were in a weird gray zone outside of law. I say that this explanation is an addition to that of racism because I think those two factors go hand in hand. Within systemic racism, having rules applied to you, laws work in your favor, is not a basic right, but a privilege that not everyone enjoys. We have seen this time and time again, how different rules and different laws and different promises apply to one group versus another. We have seen this when, after 9/11, the Bush administration announced that people suspected of sympathizing with Al-Qaeda were terrorists, not prisoners of war, and therefore the Geneva Conventions did not apply to them, leading to the infamous prison camps of Guantanamo Bay. To this day, of the 780 prisoners who were taken to Guantanamo Bay, 40 detainees still remain at the camp. They have been held there for nearly 2 decades without a trial. And we have also seen this when the Trump administration decided that the rights usually guaranteed to asylum seekers do not apply at the southern border, separating children from their parents, holding people in dehumanizing and cruel conditions, making a mockery of legal procedure when 3-year-old children were asked to make their cases in front of immigration judges. We have seen this when the Chinese Exclusion Act was passed in 1882, a law severely restricting immigration of Chinese people to the US, the first law to suddenly do so for just one specific group after centuries of unencumbered immigration by Europeans coming to the US to start new lives here. We see this every time the police violates people of color, especially Black people, employing measures of drastic and even fatal violence for minor infractions or even for just existing, with often little to no legal consequences for the offending officers. And of course, we see this in Frederick Douglass's moving and profound speech, in which he makes the point that the ideals and values of the Declaration of Independence, with its grand opening promise that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, that all people are created equal, does not in fact leave room for the enslavement of human beings. In his speech, Douglass does not attack the Declaration of Independence or the values it espouses. What he decries and condemns, though, is the fact that its guarantees are not equally applied to every person in the US. He says, and I quote, "In that instrument, the Declaration of Independence, I hold there is neither warrant, license, nor sanction for the hateful thing, but interpreted as it ought to be interpreted. The Constitution is a glorious liberty document. Read its preamble, consider its purposes. Is slavery among them? Is it at the gateway, or is it in the temple? It is neither." Douglass does not take issue with the American ideals, but with the inconsistencies in their application. And it is these inconsistencies precisely that have and still do create systems of oppressions and of structural racism. What I love about this country is that there are ideals and laws and promises that allowed for my Uncle Cord, an enemy soldier, to be treated decently and fairly. what breaks my heart and fills me not just with despair, but also with the urgent need to work for change is the fact that the same ideals, laws, and promises are not fulfilled in the same way for Black, Indigenous, and people of color in the US. They never have. Today, on the 4th of July, we celebrate American independence and what it promises. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all people are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Maybe for some of you, these sentences and what they imply are part of what you love about the US. I also think they are good rules to live by as a country. These sentences are a good underlying foundations for all other laws and rules we may come up with. So maybe now it is time. Maybe the act of patriotism, of love for our country that is so direly needed is to stop viewing these sentences as just the ideals that the country was founded on and that we may aspire to, but as binding rights and promises and a resulting duty for all of us, for all Americans, to make sure that they are applied equally and consistently to all. May it be so, and blessed be.
We have slightly different lyrics to America the Beautiful than you might be familiar with, and I think you'll really like them. I do too. Please sway as you feel so moved. How beautiful our spacious skies, our amber waves of grain, our purple mountains as they rise above the fruitful plain. America, God's gracious gifts abound, and more we're grateful for life's bounty all around. Indigenous and immigrant, our daughters and our sons. Oh, may we never rest content till all are truly one. America, God grant that we may be a sisterhood and brotherhood from sea to shining sea. How beautiful, sincere lament, the wisdom of our tears, the courage called for to repent, the blood shed through the years. America, God grant that we may be a nation blessed with none oppressed,
to continents and islands in the sea that dream of peace, non-violence, all people living free. Americas, Americas, God grant that we may be a hemisphere where people here all live in harmony.
That was beautiful. Thank you very much, Amy and Phil. Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. Throughout this month of July, we are supporting Stand Up for Kids, Orange County. Information about this organization is on the screen. Their mission statement is ending the cycle of youth homelessness. We do this in cities across America, one youth at a time. Please give generously to support this organization. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and Stand Up for Kids, Orange County. You can mail a check, or as shown in the slide, you can go through our website or use an app called Give Plus. If you are a roomer, you can place your offering in a basket as you leave the service. The choice is yours. All the information is on our website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
Many's the time I've been mistaken, and many times confused. Yes, and I've often felt forsaken, and certainly misused. Oh, but I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm just weary to my bones. Still, you don't expect to be bright and bon vivant so far away from home. So far away from home. I don't know a soul who's not been battered. I don't have a friend who feels at ease. I don't know a dream that's not been shattered or driven to its knees. Oh, but it's all right. It's all right. For we've lived so well, so long. Still, when I think of the road we're traveling on, I wonder what's gone wrong. I can't help it, I wonder what's gone wrong. And I dreamed I was dying. I dreamed that my soul rose unexpectedly, and looking back down at me, smiled reassuringly. And I dreamed I was flying, and high up above, my eyes could clearly see the Statue of Liberty sailing away to sea. And I
dreamed I was flying. Oh, we come on the ship they called the Mayflower. We come on the ship that sailed to the moon. We come in the age's most uncertain hour and sing an American tune. Oh, and it's all right. It's all right, it's all right. We can't be forever blessed. Still, tomorrow's gonna be another working day, and I'm trying to get some rest. That's all I'm trying to get some rest.
Please join in either singing or swaying along with We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share.
We gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
Now is a time when we honor the important events in our lives. You are invited, one and all, whether you're a member, a friend, or a visitor, whether you are a roomer or a zoomer, to participate in our weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. Perhaps you come here today holding something close to your heart, moments from the last days or hours that have struck at your core. If you'd like to honor such a profound joy or sorrow, you're invited to do so. I would also like to invite Judith, our pastoral care team, one of our pastoral care team members, up here to join me, or over there. She will be lighting the candle for you. If you are a roomer and haven't yet placed your joy or sorrow in the basket, you can do so now. An usher will pick up the basket in a moment. If you are a zoomer, you can write your joy or sorrow in the chat, or simply write, "Please light a candle for me," if you prefer not to share any details. Let us take a few moments in the spirit of silence as Beth plays some music and the usher retrieves the baskets. Laura Gathered Beach lights a candle of hope for comfort and ease, for my stepfather who's suffering with congestive heart failure and kidney failure. And Birdie Reed lights a candle of concern for Pat McCulley, who is on antibiotics for an infection and is in pain from sciatica. Jan Rowan lights a candle of joy. She says, "My dragons are going to be on exhibit at the fair in the Home Arts Building. Come and see me also in the farm with the oxen." And Maureen McConaughey lights a candle of joy. She says, "My daughter and son-in-law from Sweden are visiting, and my older daughter will be arriving this afternoon." Yay! And there is a candle of joy that gives me so much joy. Matthew Patterson says, "Celebrating 1 week of marriage to my wonderful husband, Alex." And on Zoom, Sarah Jones says, "We lost another fur family member this week, and my sweet princess went quietly to kitty heaven." And Dawn Cherry says, "I'm sad that I couldn't join you today in person because I have a bad cold that came on me after the Alaskan cruise with grandsons Alice and Nick." We hold all of these joys and all of the sorrows in our hearts, and I now invite Judith up here to read us a pastoral prayer.
Please join me in a spirit of prayer. These are words from Bill Sankford. Spirit of life and love, dear God of all nations, there is so much work to do. We've only begun to imagine justice and mercy. Help us hold fast to our vision of what can be. May we see the hope in our history and find the courage and the voice to work for that constant rebirth of freedom and justice. That is our dream. Amen.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say, "We extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again." Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently, and yet when we gather together, whether we are in the room or on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you are a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat or stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you are from. Welcome, Alex, and congratulations on 1 week of marriage. Yeah. Hello, Claire and Celine from Irvine.
Hi, I'm Gretel. I've been a member of in Long Beach, but now I'm in Orange County, so you're 5 minutes away. So.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Well, welcome, Gretel. Yeah.
Hey, I'm Jordan. I'm from Irvine. I've been seeing some of the services online on YouTube, and I decided to finally make my way down. I got my partners Chase and Adam over.
Hello. Yes. Welcome. Glad you could make it, and I'm glad you've been watching the services on YouTube. That's wonderful. Okay. Thank you. Welcome. And let's see. I don't see anybody on Zoom that's a guest today. Okay. So let's see. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please contact us at hello@ocuuc.org, and we will help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we will help you get connected. After the service, we will have a short period where everyone, Roomers and Zoomers alike, can wave and say hello and welcome any visitors. The Zoomers who remain will be placed into Zoom breakout groups for 20 minutes. We invite you to check in and get to know the people in your group. Here are the announcements of meetings and activities that we have going on in the life of our church. Today at 12:15, we have an Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics meeting that will be on Zoom. Right below that meeting announcement, on the lower left of the slide, you can see that on Saturday, July 17th, from 4 to 7 p.m., the OCUUC stewards are hosting a wine, cheese, and art event right here in the courtyard. This is a great opportunity to return to the church campus and enjoy a glass of wine, sparkling water, or lemonade, accompanied by an assortment of cheeses and crackers, as well as music. On display will be a sculpture collection created by Isa Graves, who is a longtime member of our congregation with her husband, Bob Graves. Over several years, Isa created 30 pieces, primarily in terracotta. Prior to her death, she expressed her desire that the sculptures be given to OCUUC. Her daughter has honored Isa's wishes by making them available to the church for fundraising. We will have some of the sculptures out in the courtyard after the service, and Dave Carlson will be upstairs in Suite 4 if anyone would like to preview the entire collection. When you exit through these doors on your right, turn right, and Suite 4 will be the next building.
In 1950, grappling with patriotism in his country after World War II, the German poet Bertolt Brecht wrote the Children's Hymn, an alternative national anthem for the new Germany he was envisioning. And today I want to leave you with the last stanza of that hymn. And because we make it better, let us guard and love our home. Love it as our dearest country, as the others love their own. May it be so. Happy 4th of July, and blessed be. Please join me now in singing or swaying along to our music for dispersal. Is over. Let our service continue.